Welcome to Poland Daily History with me, Nicholas Richardson. And we're continuing our series which looks at major cities in Poland by turning our attention from Krakow to Warsaw. And I'm delighted to be joined by Adam Starzyński, our expert on all things historical, Polish and urban. Adam, welcome back.
Thank you for having me.
Well, thank you for turning up. And what do we know about the origins of Warsaw?
Warsaw is a very old city, but it's a bit younger than Krakow, something that the Krakowians naturally love to point out. Krakow has its foundations in a first settlement that was there even in the 7th and 8th century. Very small, naturally, without any real written history, and which for some period of time was included in the great Moravian Empire and later on with the Bohemian kings. However, Warsaw also dates quite far back. Depends on exactly what definitions you use. The first settlements were also from the 9th and 10th century. However, these were settlements that there was no continuity. They didn't survive, and the Warsawians of the 14th or 15th century, they would have no idea of what was going on in the city earlier than that. If we look at the first continuous settlements, so to say, they start appearing in places that are not part of the later Old Town, but they are slightly outside of what is Warsaw in the medieval era. Today it is within city limits, but back then it wasn't. These were in places such as Brudno, which, by the way, has one of Europe's largest cemeteries, as a little fun fact. Another one is Jazdów, and both of these, they appear in the 10th, 11th century. Jazdów gains importance and is raided twice. The first time in 1262 by the Lithuanians. We should remember that this part of Poland that Warsaw is in, Mazovia, the historical region, is quite far to those areas that the Lithuanians considered as their areas of interest. And the Grand Duchy of Lithuania was the last pagan power in Europe, but also one of the largest land powers in Europe in the 13th century. So the people that lived in this neck of the woods, they had to always worry about some pagans coming from the northeast. So they raid Jazdów in 1262. It is rebuilt, the settlement, but in 1281 it is raided a second time, this time not by the Lithuanians, but by the troops of Bolesław II of Mazovia, because at that time the city of Płock was the main city of the Mazovia region. The local ducal line had its bases there, and they considered Jazdów as a competitor, so they raided it, razed it with the ground, and later on they themselves decided that there should be a new settlement rebuilt in the area. So they turned to the small fisherman's village of Warsaw and decided to invest in that locality instead, and started building it up. And this is the foundation of Warsaw, the decision by Bolesław II to simply rebuild a town that he first raised a few kilometers further away in a fisherman's village. This is also where this legend comes from of Vals I Sava, Vals the fisherman, and Sava the mermaid that had swam up from the Baltic Sea.
Quite a long journey from the Baltic Sea.
Yes.
If you're a mermaid.
Oh yes, but probably they have some superpowers that we are not aware of. So this is where the name Warsaw comes from, these two names taken together, the fisherman and the mermaid. And probably most tourists that have visited Warsaw might remember that there is a statue of a mermaid both by the Vistula River, but even more famously at the square of Old Town.
That's right.
And of course, it's also the symbol of the city in its coat of arms. So these are the starts of Warsaw, you can say. The city starts growing, and there is a wooden castellan built by the successor of Bolesław II, his brother Conrad II. He builds this first brick church on the site of this wooden castellan that was initially built. And this church develops over the next few decades, and in the 1390s becomes a cathedral. This is the St. John's Cathedral that also tourists might remember. If they were walking up to the Old Town Square, they probably passed by this grand church in which most of these dukes of Masovia were buried during the 14th century.
Adam, as usual, the clock has defeated. I'm just going to have to ask you to pause there, but we will pick it up next time. There we are. I've interrupted Adam almost in mid-sentence, but we will pick up the story next time on Poland Daily History, so please join us then. In the meantime, thank you for watching.